Big win against Spurs at the weekend. We've now got a big game in midweek against Palace at Selhurst Park. I've got Dale to talk through the game with me as well. One of the big talking points that Tanmay brought up from the weekend and actually in general this season is that left-back position. And we saw Darmian there on Sunday. We've seen Luke Shaw play there. We've seen Daley Blind play there. Is there a standout in that left-back position for you in the same way that we've got Valencia at right-back?
For me, the standout is Luke Shaw. Whether or not Jose Mourinho sees that as well, it's a different story. I think there could be issues on and off the pitch. Concentration levels were criticised at the beginning of the season, and he publicly slammed the left back. Now, that could be the kick up the backside he needs, take it on the chin and work harder. Time will tell. We've tried Darmian there. I think he's a full back, played on the wrong side, which to a winger is just brilliant news. When you see the team shoot, you put him on your bad side and you got paid, you're going to beat him every time, like happened against Spurs in the second half. And then you got Blind, who's a bit of a hybrid, and playing midfield, centre half, and left back. I think Mourinho would prefer to have a player who can cement a role, that can be the best in that role rather than put makeshift. Maybe that's a better word for it. But for me, it would be Luke Shaw. Whether Mourinho sees that or not, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, actually. I think Luke Shaw's the only left-back, really, that we've got at the club, as far as I'm concerned, or senior player that we've got at the club anyway. And I think he's the guy that should be cementing that place. The one thing I would say, I mean, you touched on there, this idea that they've had a bit of a falling out. And the way I look at this, and I could be completely wrong on this, they may have had a proper falling out, and it may not be right, the relationship might not be there. But, I look at Mkhitaryan and the way that Jose's dealt with that. He's given him the time to get back into his rhythm, make sure he adjusts the Premier League in the right way, make sure his fitness is right, his head's right. And he's come back into the side now and he's got a run of games. I mean, I know he's injured. Hopefully it's just the week or two that Jose said it will be. But he looks fresh and he looks good. And I'm just hoping that it's the same with Shaw, actually, because I don't think, that we've really got an alternative. Darmian was turned inside out against Sissoko, and that's not a surprise. He's a right-footed player for a start. I think he's still learning his trade and still plying his trade and trying to work out how to position himself correctly. But I think Luke Shaw's the guy that's, can cement that position. Do you think, though, I mean, so obviously he had that big injury, that big leg break. Do you think that's the thing that's hindering him? Do you think he can get over that and become that player that we know he was beforehand and he can be?
He's a remarkable prospect, Luke Shaw. I think when you have an injury like that, it doesn't only take you time to heal physically, but mentally also, because when you're rushing into tackles, that has to be at the back of your mind, that your leg could snap again. It's not something they can push aside and get over after a few months, maybe a few years. Look at Ramsey, it took him 2 or 3 years when he got back to actually start performing at that level expected at Arsenal. So, I look at Luke Shaw, fine prospect, should be our left back, cement left back for 10 or so years. He's at that age, costs a lot of money. I think he warrants his valuation if he could be your left back for 10 or so years. But I think there's a lot more issues there. The injury is definitely in the back of his mind. Off the pitch, I think there's concerns. Definitely Mourinho sees concerns there. Putting up videos to show he's doing little workouts at home, that just doesn't do a whole lot, because you need to do that every day if you're Manchester United footballer, not just your sporadic post on Instagram.
It's got a touch of the Memphis about that, hasn't it?
That own Hargreaves did it as well. It's just put it away. Put it away. Just go to Carrington, put your work shift in there and prove it to the manager you're worthy. You don't need to show everyone on Instagram or social media. We don't care. We want to see you on match day, starting at left back and benefiting the team.
No, I agree with you completely. Listen, guys, get your comments in below. Let us know what you think. Is Luke Shaw the guy? Is it someone else at the club? Or if not, is there anyone else we could bring in to replace him? Is that worthwhile Jose looking at? Onto a player that's not been playing well either. Didn't play well against Everton last 5-10 minutes that he came on, and that's Marouane Fellaini. And Lewis has touched on Twitter, has touched on the idea of people booing him at the ground. And I was there at weekends, and as he's warming up on the touchline, there was quite an audible boo coming from the crowd. Do you think that it's right to boo a player? I mean, he hasn't been great, and there are lots of people who have criticised his performances. Do you think that warrants given him that kind of criticism vocally, or do you think that's just not going to help?
No, it doesn't help. I think you ask any footballer, you ask any manager, you ask anyone in football, does boo help a player? And it does the complete opposite. It doesn't encourage a player. This is a footballer who just made a mistake last week. He knows he made a mistake. The manager knows he made a mistake. And he knows the fans were hurt by that mistake because we dropped points against Everton at home. You know, that means he's going to dip in confidence a small bit. He's a confidence player. And by a bunch of idiots booing him at Old Trafford, do they think that's going to solve it? Or give him a boost that he needs? It's going to do the complete opposite. It just doesn't work that way. I've never booed a Manchester United player. I've seen it happen at Old Trafford several times. I've never booed my own player. I never will. I think it's different if a player comes out and publicly disses the club or something of that nature. I think it's a different situation. Fellaini is always given his all to Manchester United. He's a limited player. We know that. He might not be even of the Manchester United standard. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying he's a Manchester United player. We should treat him and respect him like one. Like, you look, a few weeks ago, I think it was bizarre, the reception Bastian Schweinsteiger got at Old Trafford. It was as if he was at the club 10 years, won everything, was our
100%.
Like, right, he's a football legend. No question about that. Player I respect, but I thought the reception was a bit over the top. And you compare that to Mauro and Fellaini. He's been here a bit longer, played a lot more times for Manchester United. He's always put the shift in. Always. Does not deserve that. No Manchester United player deserves to be booed, especially when it's never dissed the club and always put it 110%.
There's two things for me, and I think you've touched on them both in different ways. I think the first is if you're booing him, and you're kind of booing Mourinho. You know, at the end of the day, he was the one that brought him on for the last 5-10 minutes of the game. He was the one that made that decision. So I think if you're booing a player for not having a great 5-10 minutes, and it being a mistake, I mean, it was a mistake, but it wasn't a lack of effort for me. It was just he's not good enough, and that's what caused that. But that's Mourinho's error. So in essence, they're booing Mourinho, and I don't think he deserves that, definitely. And the second thing is, I'm with you again, 100% on the fact that I think it's a case of if you're a player who gives everything, which Marouane Fellaini does, however poor you are, however limited a player you are, you don't deserve to get that kind of criticism from the fans. And when you put that red shirt on, you're a United player. And for me, he is someone who has got a skill set that can still help us. He can still do a job up top. You know, he's not a defensive midfielder for me. He's a guy that you want to put at the top of the pitch and do a little bit of what Zlatan does. And the only way you do that is by giving him confidence. But maybe I'm in a minority. You know, let us know, guys. Maybe I'm the stupid one. You know, maybe we should boo players if we don't think they're right. Maybe that's the only way we get a message across. I do think, though, had that have been away from home, that he wouldn't have got quite the reception. And my only criticism there would be, I think Jose made the right decision getting him in early after that mistake. But I'd have probably done it at Selhurst Park, I think, where you know that you're going to get a good reception from the fans. Let us know, guys. Let us know what you think. If you would have been at the ground, would you have booed? If you were at the ground, did you boo? Let us know. Moving on, though, I think we've assumed that Marouane Fellaini is not going to be in your starting 11. However much you may not have, or however little boos he deserved, he probably doesn't get a place in your starting 11. Who does get a place in your starting 11? Obviously, Mkhitaryan's injured, hopefully just for a short period of time. Valencia is suspended as well. So who steps in?
The first talking spot is obviously right back, because we mentioned that Valencia is suspended. I've opted to switch Darmian from left back to right back. I know he didn't perform too well against Spurs. Was our weak link in the second half. Soko took advantage of that. But I think switch him over to his preferred role on the right hand side. Might see an improvement there. And that obviously opens up left back. We spoke a bit briefly at the start of the show who we'd play there. I'm going to go with Blind in this game. I think Blind has a better chance of starting than Luke Shaw. At centre half, I'm not splitting that partnership. I'm not splitting Jones or Rowe, even though Bali's fit. Bali, as we know, is going to the African Cup of Nations in January. We need to prepare for that. There's no reason whatsoever to break up that centre back pair. And we know Jones and Rojo at the start of the season, everyone was writing them off. But Mourinho's getting the best out of them right now. Don't break that up. Midfield three, I don't think you can argue with this one, but Herrera, Carrick and Pogba, world class. He's going to get better and better and better as well as the season goes on. Michael Carrick picks himself. Fortunately, he's at that age now where he can't play 2 games a week, every week. So Mourinho might have a look at that. Herrera, his best season at United so far. Such an influence, winning balls in the opposition's half of fun. And just really, since Mourinho's come in, we've just seen a different player. He's a player actually cementing a starting spot. It's not fans saying, "Oh, he should be starting." He's starting, but he's starting now. Up top, 3. I'm gone for Mata rather than Rooney. Obviously, Mkhitaryan is out injured, accompanied by Zlatan and Anthony Martial.
Nice. I mean, there's only a few changes I'd make there, to be honest, and I think they're all kind of, subjective changes. I think at right back I would probably play Ashley Young. Actually, I just think he's a like-for-like replacement for Valencia. I don't think he's quite as good. He's not a right back, but then, as you said before, Valencia wasn't either. And I think he's a like-for-like replacement. I think if you're going to play a Mata in the side, and I'd also bring in Mata for Mkhitaryan. I think he's got similar qualities. Then I think you want someone that mans that right-hand side. And I think Ashley Young's that guy. I think that centre-back pairing, as much as I don't think it's the best centre-back pairing we're going to have going forward, I think they've done too good a job. And consistency, I think, is key now to make sure that they have a good run of games and they're the solid centre-back partnership. I'd probably go Blind at left-back. I'd like to see Shaw get a run of games, but I think after Darmian's performance at weekend and we struggled there a little bit, I think an old head, somebody who's got that experience, can read the game well, I think, at left-back. And maybe the only other change I would make is I'd actually bring in Rashford for Martial. I thought he had a good game against Spurs. I thought he pegged back Kyle Walker really well, which I think was probably more of his job, actually, than going forward. But I just think that Rashford needs a chance too. I think between the two of them, they need opportunities. We've got a game at weekend against West Brom, so why not bring in Rashford? If he has a good game, keep him in the side. If it's not the best, you can bring Martial on halfway through the game at half-time, and then he can play at weekend. So I bring in Rashford, but I think that midfield 3, as you've already alluded to, is the midfield 3. And Herrera's a future captain. He's a future Manchester United captain, as far as I'm concerned. I look at the way that he talks as well. That's it. You watch him on the pitch and he's dictating. He's the one it's not Carrick telling people where to be. It's Herrera. And Carrick's got that bigger picture. He kind of orchestrates that midfield. And Pogba's got that advanced, freer role. But I mean, I don't know. I've got an affectionate love for Ander Herrera, Dale, I think. Do you think there's enough balance, though? Just one question. Do you think there's enough balance with Mata on the right? We've seen that before. He's a great player, but is he right on that right-hand side?
This thing, I think we're better with Mata in the team. But the way I see football and the way I think we should play is with pace and speed and hitting teams where it hurts. But Mata's so technically gifted, I'd have him in the team every day over Wayne Rooney. Every day over Wayne Rooney. 100%. He creates. But it's just, you mentioned there that Mkhitaryan has similar qualities, and he has. The big difference is the lightning pace.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'd start Mkhitaryan with Mata. But without him in the team, it's Mata all day long for me. All day long.
Well, let us know what you think, guys. Who gets in your starting 11? Would you rotate? We've got a big game at weekend now. Got a midweek game. Would you rotate? Would you freshen players up? Do you think Carrick can manage, 3 games in a week? Let us know. Let's move on to Crystal Palace then. We've talked about how well United are playing. What do you think of Crystal Palace? Are there any big standouts for you that could cause us problems?
In recent weeks, just look at Wilfried Zaha, former United player. I think the other day he scored a goal and set up 2 goals, 2 assists. So that's obviously a point we really need to look at. And obviously we're talking here about full-backs and situation that we haven't got Valencia. We don't know who we're playing on left back. So maybe that could be a concern. And obviously the man in the centre, Benteke, who, if those balls come in from out wide, we could have a bit of trouble. But Rojo and Jones dealt with Harry Kane very well at the weekend. So we should have a bit of confidence in those two to do the same job again. And obviously Palace at the back, like I mentioned to you before, they're like the bottom half of the table, Liverpool. They can score goals, but they can't defend.
Yeah.
So you look at that defence, that's going to lead goals. If we can do our job in an offensive manner, we should be hammering them.
I'm kind of with you on the Benteke thing. I mean, if you can nullify Benteke, in the way that we did against Spurs and Harry Kane, then I think you nullify what Palace have really got. And I know Zaha's been playing well. I think he's obviously a threat. Of course he is. His pace and his ability out wide when he's on form, and he is at the minute, can be quite frightening. It is frightening. I still think Benteke is the target man. They feed off where he is. He holds the ball well, a little bit like Zlatan does for us. You know, that's what he does for Palace. So I think if we can nullify him, keep him at bay, you know, I think they'll leak goals at the back. You know, and I mean, I look at their last. I was looking at a few stats for Palace because I know they've had a few big results, or at least there have been a number of games with big score lines. And there have been 44 goals in Palace games, the last 10 Premier League games that they've played. I mean, that's astonishing. 18 in the last 6. You know, so they've got 18 in the last 3. So that's like average of 6 goals a game. So they've got a ridiculously leaky back 4. You know, but they do score goals as well. So I look at this and I think there's an opportunity for United to go there and cause them a lot of problems and really finish a side off, particularly away from home in a way that we've not seen United do for a little while. And I look at the Leicester game at home a couple of months ago when we were clinical, you know, and we rifled through them in the first half. And I just hope that we can do that against Palace this time round. What's your score prediction? What are we saying? What do you think?
I'm going to go 3-1. Expect to score goals. But the one thing, the way I say 3-1, I want to see United in the last 10, 15 minutes be more than a goal ahead. Be 2 or 3 goals ahead. Yeah. Simple reason, I think, is it will give a team a massive boost, and it needs that. Against Spurs, we finally held on to a win. That gave the defence a boost. Stats I mentioned with MTV after the game where Pogba had a free kick and hit the post. That was a free kick. That would have gave the team a massive lift. And it was very misfortunate. Fantastic free kick. 9 times out of 10, that's hitting the back net. The keeper's not saving that. But I think they just need that one game with a healthy lead. And that gave them a massive boost. Boost in confidence. Going into the Christmas break with lots of games. That's what we need. And I think it's going to come this week.
So 3-1 for you. I'm going to be a bit more confident. I'm going to say 5-1. I think there's goals. There's goals at Selhurst Park. I think there's goals from us as well. I think, like you say, if we take our chances. So fingers crossed, 5-1. Let us know what you think, guys. Do you think that United are going to eventually hammer a team away from home? Maybe. Who knows? Might happen. Do you think that, again, we should rotate? Do we think we should bring other people in? Can Zlatan finish off the chances that we know he can finish? Can United win the game? Let us know.